Hi, everybody. I hope you and yours are having a very wonderful Passover. Tomorrow night, on Thursday night and Friday day, will be the seventh day of Passover. On the seventh day of Passover, we remember the historical event that took place where the Almighty miraculously saved one more time, with many miracles, the Jewish people from the Egyptians. The Jews had left Egypt and had come to the Sea of Reeds, and the Egyptians chased after them, and they had no place to go, and it was very scary. But miraculously, the Almighty split the sea, and the Jewish people went through the dry land, and the Egyptians came and were drowned in it, and finally now the Jews had nothing to worry about the Egyptians anymore. Why does God do miracles? Well, one aspect of God's doing miracles is to let us know He's here. It's not coincidental that in the Ten Commandments it says, I am God your God, who doesn't say created heaven and earth, which is obviously a very great feat, but it says God who took you out of Egypt, because you witnessed God. The entire Jewish people and the world witnessed what had transpired. So it's a reminder that God's presence is here. But we have to take it a step further. And we have to remember that it's not just a lesson about the miracles where God shows Himself openly, but it's a reminder to us that God is always involved in our lives. The Hebrew term for that is hashgacha pratis, which means individual divine providence. Well, God is actively involved in our lives, and that's another reason why we say, I am God, in the Ten Commandments, I'm the God who took you out of Egypt, to remind us that God didn't just create the world and went on vacation to Hawaii, but He's actively involved in history and in every collective and individual life. And we need to open our eyes to see that. There's a beautiful story, a very beautiful story, Rabbi Ben Shushan. And he was heading toward the Western Wall in Israel, in Jerusalem, and he hears a tour guide explaining about the city of Jerusalem, and he's listening to what the man is saying, and the things he was saying were totally not accurate. And he came over and said, excuse me, but let me tell you what the real story is. And he started explaining Jewish history and a little about the city, but the tour guide got very angry at him and said, do you realize all these people are not Jewish? We're Christians, and you're mixing up. And he said, well, I'm sorry for interfering. I thought you were Jewish. But it's true, they need to know the real facts anyway. And he walked away and headed toward the Western Wall. And a man comes running after him, Rabbi, and he says, yes, how can I help you? He says, most of the other people there are Christian, but in fact, I am Jewish. And I want you to know that my grandparents were Holocaust survivors, and they hid their Jewishness from me. And I didn't know, but I recently found out from them that in fact I am Jewish. And I want to know more. And I think it was divine providence that God sent you to interject your important thoughts into our conversation, because it was a wake-up call for me. I need to learn more about my faith. I need to learn more about being Jewish and what that means to me. He says, what's your Hebrew name? Do you have a Hebrew name? What's your name? Evan. Evan, you know what that means? That's a stone. We're going to the Western Wall that's made from stones. Come join me there, and we will pray and we will talk, and I'll try to get you some direction. And he took him there, and lo and behold, he was looking for an outreach rabbi, and, quote, coincidentally, there happened to be a rabbi there whose expertise was teaching Jews who don't know much about Judaism, and he hooked him up, and everybody was very happy. And he realized the divine providence of the whole story. And then he was praying at the wall, and he said a verse in the book of Psalms that came jumping out at him. It's Psalm 118, verse 22. It says, Evan moaso abonim hais l'rosh pino. The stone that the builders despised has become the cornerstone. And he heard the name Evan. This is this man's name. He was despised. He thought he wasn't Jewish, and the Judaism had been rejected, and now he's becoming a cornerstone. Now he's learning more about it with this new rabbi that he hooked him up with to teach him about Judaism. So we need to remember that there is a divine providence. God is always actively involved in our lives, Sometimes we see it clearly, and sometimes we see it less clearly. But if we open our eyes, we can begin to see it more and more. And what I would suggest is people keep a log about things that, quote, look like a coincidence, but really were divine providence, where God was actively involved in our lives. And that's a blessing when we start keeping records of that. I'd love to hear from you, by the way, if you have stories to share. I'd love to hear those. And the miracles that took place in Egypt and at the sea, at the splitting of the sea, were God letting us know He's here and involved. But it didn't stop then. He continues to do miracles, both revealed and hidden for us. And this is something that we need to be cognizant of. Rav Dessler words it so beautifully. He says, nature is constant miracle, and miracle is occasional nature. Meaning to say, it's all the same to God. It's just for us, it's surprising sometimes. May we open our eyes and appreciate God's great and little miracles that are with us all the time, and appreciate God's presence in our lives. Have a wonderful rest of the holiday of Passover for you and your entire family and friends, and enjoy and enjoy and enjoy. All the best.